Basically, getting what's called a Dogfish had started it, and they called it a Randall because the one they used was made out of enamel, so they called it Randall, the enamel animal. And what they started doing, they really brought infusion technology out in this country. Of course, y'all should know about Dogfish Head Brewery, makes excellent beer. And what they did is they went to a like a beer hop festival called the Lupulin Slam. The lupulin is the chemical in the beer or in the hops that gives it the bitterness, gives it the hoppy flavor. And so they brought this device called a Randall to this event and put. Hey, how you doing? Okay. All right. So anyway, they did that and they won the competition out there having the hoppiest beer because they were running their beer, which is already hoppy, through fresh hops and blew everybody's mind. So they started selling out of their brew pub. They started selling basically their water filters. They just put together, and they became so popular that they were selling so many. They're like, well, this is taking away our time from brewing beer. So we'll just put the plans on the internet. You make it yourself. We don't have time to build these things anymore because it's just we can build these things or we can brew beer. What do you want to do? It's Dogfish Head. Brew beer. So basically, we've got a converted water filter here, and what we've done is we've got beer coming out of the keg, and it comes to the top and it filters through all these leaf hops. In the bottom, in the middle is a metal pipe, and in the bottom of the metal pipe are little holes. The beer comes and filters through the hops, comes back up through that metal pipe, and then out, and it picks up a lot of the hop flavors. So we call it an infusion. I've been doing infusions for about 1.5 years, just on my own. I figured, hey, I want to do that at home with my kegerator. Let me see what I can do, what would go good together. And I've learned a lot of stuff about doing infusions just through trial and error. I've learned what works, what doesn't work. I learned how temperamental these filters can be. I've had a couple of near disasters where I'm like, why isn't it working? Why isn't it pouring? You know, you get little, if you're not careful, you'll get little bits of debris in your fittings, and then you have to take the whole thing apart and clean it out. You know, while you're sitting there in a bar full of a couple dozen people waiting for an infused beer, and then you got to pull everything back apart, you know, can be kind of problematic. So yeah, trial and error. I've learned what works, what doesn't. I've infused everything from, well, hops, of course. My first beer I ever infused, I got a porter from Woodruff Brewery, which is a small brew pub where I'm at in Knoxville, Tennessee. And they had a really good porter. I thought, let me throw some coconut nibs to that, which is the raw form of chocolate, and some shredded coconut. And it was so good. I had a 5-gallon or a 6-barrel keg in my kegerator at home. It was so good, I killed that keg in probably less than a week. And I mean, because my friends would come over and we just, oh, it's 5 o'clock, I'm off work. I mean, it was so good, I just went through a whole keg like real quick. Love that beer. One of my favorite ingredients to infuse with, it will always be coconuts and shredded coconut. It just goes so good with any dark beer, especially bourbon barrel beers. Bourbon barrel stouts are absolutely fantastic. If you do a bourbon barrel stout with an infuser full of coconuts and coconut, it tastes like a German chocolate cake. It's amazing. What we have here is we have Terrapin's Rye PA, which is an excellent rye pale ale, and we're going through 2 different hop varieties. We're going through Cascade hops. Cascade hops has a really good history in this country. Basically, it's a very flavorful, citrusy, kind of grapefruity type of flavors to a hop, and it almost went extinct. Not many people are growing it. A little known brewery at the time, a little startup brewery on the West Coast, decided, we like this hop variety. We're going to use this in our flagship pale ale. So thank you, Sierra Nevada, for bringing the Cascade hop back from the brink of extinction. It's an excellent hop variety, adds a lot of flavor to beers. a good bittering hop, but when I think hops, I like a good hoppy IPA, but I really like a good flavorful IPA. Hops are really, to get the bitterness, you have to boil it. You have to boil it in the beer, in the wort while you're making the beer, and that extracts the bitterness. If you use hops at the end of the boil, put them in there, or if you do what's called dry hop, where you throw them in a fermenter, you get more of the aroma, the citrusy type flavors, and not so much the bitterness. So this is not going to be picking up hardly any bitterness from this beer. We're going to get a lot of like really flavorful citrus fruit type flavors. So if y'all come up here with your glasses, I'll be more than happy to pour some for you. And you can see what's about infusing through trial and error. Anytime you use hops in an infusion, it makes it very foamy. And the reason being is you can see there's a lot of air pockets in that infuser with those hops. There's a lot of places that the infuser, the lines can pick up. And I'm sorry for those of you I'm pouring this on my hand, I'm sorry about that. But you can see how it can pick up air pockets and makes it real foamy. So whenever I do this at a bar, I do this at a bar once or twice a month at a little craft beer bar that just opened up in Knoxville called Suttrie's High Gravity Tavern. If you ever go visit Knoxville for whatever reason, on Gay Street where the Mass General store is, it's right across the street. It opened up back in June. Have an excellent beer selection there, and a lot of high gravity beers that you have to have a liquor license to pour. So they have beers that no one else in the region can get, just because they have that liquor license. So we do infusions there. The next one I'm doing is on the 27th, on Thursday 27th. We're going to do Atwater's Java Vanilla Porter, and we're going back to our old standby, coca nibs and shredded coconut, which are my favorites because they're very flavorful, and the beer really picks up the flavors from it. So there's certain things that I've learned that work in infusion and certain things that don't work. And oh man, that's good. Some things that don't work in infusions. It works, but part of the things with infusions is the presentation. If I'm at a bar, I want people to come up and be able to see what's in there, what I'm doing. I've learned the hard way. I did a raspberry wheat beer at a beer festival back in June in Knoxville, and I thought, well, if I use frozen fruit, if you freeze the fruit and then thaw it out, the cell walls burst open, you can get all the juice out. So I packed an infuser full of raspberries and blackberries, and damn if it didn't taste good, but it just looked like one big cloudy mess. You really couldn't see what was going on in there. It picked up a lot of the flavors, but people are coming up and it's like, what the heck is that, you know? Again, so with me, it's more of like, I want to be able to get the flavors, but I also want people to see what's going on. Because if it wasn't about presentation, I'd just be using like opaque water filters that have a bigger capacity. Some other things that do work, fruit does work, it depends on the fruit. I did an infusion with New Belgium's Peach Porch Rocker. It's a high gravity beer. It's a peach Brettanomyces beer. Brettanomyces is a wild yeast strain that's becoming popular in craft brew right now. And I did it with fresh peaches, candied ginger, and vanilla bean pods, and it was amazing. It was a really good beer. It's a good beer on its own, but it made it even better. Not that any of these beers need to be improved on. Obviously, the brewmasters know what they're doing. This rye pale ale, I drink by itself. It's an excellent beer. I love it how it is. But if I could throw some extra hops to anything, I'm going to do it. Because I'm just kind of hothead like that. I mean, just the way squash ale that I brewed. It's like a pumpkin ale. Tell everybody, same beer, different squash. And so I thought, well, it'd be neat if I made a little pie and put little pie slices in it. I don't think it added any flavor to the beer, but if it didn't look cool to see like this full of little pie slices floating in it. So, you know, sometimes it's just for presentation. Sometimes you're actually looking to get flavor added to it. Some of my favorite hops to use. Originally, I wanted to use Simcoe and Citra hops, really popular West Coast style hops. They're proprietary hops, so only certain farms that are licensed to grow these hops can grow them. So they're really hard to find. As soon as homebrew shops get them, the homebrewers snap them up. The Simcoe and Citra are my favorite. They add a lot more fruit flavors to the beer. but they didn't have it, so I went with the old standbys, which I'm happy with. Trying to think of some other stuff I've infused. Vanilla bean pods work. I've infused with, like I said, candied ginger. You want to stay away from stuff that will have a tendency to turn to mush and clog the lines. I wouldn't put cookies in it because who knows what that's, I put pie in it, it didn't work, but I mean, it did have a lot of floaties in the beer. Let's put it that way. It's like, oh, my beer has a graham cracker crust on it. Oh, jalapenos, peppers are real popular doing a beer. Anytime I've been to a beer festival, like there was one in Johnson City back in April, the Thirsty Orange Beer Festival, and they did a Pisgah Pale Ale with jalapenos, and they went through that keg faster than any keg of beer I've seen at that festival. Peppers work really well, pick up the flavors. A lot of times, what you want to do is you want to pack it and you want to let it wait. Like I packed this like 15 minutes before I started the workshop to give a chance for those flavors to come off the hops. Another thing, after a while though, you'll start losing the flavors. After a while, you strip off all the hop oils, all the good stuff, and an hour from now, this isn't going to be adding anything to this beer. So it's real important to stop. If you're going to be doing it over a long period of time, like if I'm going to take this back to the table when I'm done and pour it at the table, and in about an hour or so, I'm going to change out the hops and put a fresh batch of hops in there to really pick up the flavors. So encourage you to come by on this aisle that way. Does anybody have any questions about infusions? Anything? All right. How about where to get these? If you wanted to get this yourself, you could build one, I guess. I get frustrated building stuff unless it's brewing beer. Like I can brew beer all day long, but when it comes to putting stuff together, I'm like, I'll just pay someone to do it. Like just like my car, I can fix my car if I want to, if I want to do an oil change, but I'm just like, leave it to an expert. So I was looking for parts for these, and this particular style of water filter, most of the hardware stores switched over to an opaque one, which doesn't do me any good. So I found this on homebrewstuff.com. Had a pretty good deal on these. It also works as a filter. When I brew my beer, when it's done, I run it through, I put a 5 micron filter in here and run my beer through it. Makes my beer like really clear. That's what professional breweries do. They filter their beer. If you go get a bottle of Yuengling at the store and you pour it in your glass, it's cloudy, you're gonna think something's wrong with it. So I kind of go for that kind of quality. I want my beer to be clear. So this doubles when I'm not using it to put funky flavors in beer. I use it as a filter to filter my beer. Would go good with an infusion. A lot of times, like I said, coca nibs. I found that if I'm using coca nibs in an infusion, about 2 hours, I'll lose the coca flavor and I start getting a lot of astringency from the coca nib. So most of the ingredients that you're going to use are going to have a time limit on them. And just like this has a time limit to drinking it, so if somebody come up and pour your glass, anyone, beer. Come on, y'all, free beer! Free beer! Everybody loves free beer. Alright, surely with all these people here, somebody can ask me some kind of question about infusing beer. Anybody? Yes, coffee, excellent. Yes, coffee works really good in beer. Of course, it's my, like I wouldn't take a light beer, necessarily a lighter type of beer like a Pilsner and infuse coffee with it. I'm sure that would work, but certain things are going to go well with certain beer styles. Hops go good with anything. We had an Imperial Stout by Sweetwater. They did a Imperial Stout back in the winter called Happy Ending. And it was a really hoppy Imperial Stout. Like when it first came out, if I closed my eyes and smelled it, I thought I was smelling a dark IPA. It was really hoppy, but when we opened this bar called Suttrie's, the distributor, it was 6 months later, the distributor still had some kegs of it in their walking cooler. And I said, well, hold those for us. You can't sell them to anybody else. Hold them for us. Well, we got it. And the thing with hops, you got to drink hoppy beers fresh to have the hop flavor in it. Well, that beer was real hoppy, but after a while, after 6 months, those hops dropped out, and it was still really good. The chocolate malt flavors came out, stuff like that. So what we did when we did the infusion is we did hops with it and brought it back to what it used to taste like when it first came out, and it went over really well. One time, anybody here heard of IPA Day? Social media things, IPA Day. Not that you need a special day to drink IPA, but we had an event at the bar with that. I have 2 of these. So one of them we ran the same beer through both of them. We ran West Coast IPA from, what is that brewery, Richard?
Green Flash.
Green Flash, that's right. See, I drink too much beer. I've killed too many brain cells. Let me kill some more here. So we ran Green Flash IPA, one of these full of Simcoe hops, and the other one full of Citra hops. Both proprietary styles, both my favorite styles, varieties of hops right now. And we had people vote on it. They would come up and they would get their glass, and they would taste them both. And we had a tally. What kind of hops? I think Simcoe won by like 2 votes. And these hop breeding programs have been working to come up with their own varieties. And when they do, it's like printing your own money. If you come up with a proprietary hop blend and you can license that out, and it's popular with brewers, and those hop farmers, I can just imagine, like, every time I think of these hop farms in Yakima Valley that grow Simcoe and Citra, I'm thinking like barbed wire fences, the guard towers, and like, they keep that stuff in their lock and key. They don't want like Joe Homebrewer to go dig up some rhizomes and start growing them in his backyard. Trust me, I've thought about hiring a team of ninjas to go out and get me some, but at that point I'm like, just buy a couple pounds for what I could hire a ninja for. Citrus?
Any citrus?
Citrus is work. Fresh citrus. I've done fresh lemon slices and oranges in an IPA. When I did the peach one, I did lemon slices in with it as well. Lemon slices and fresh peaches, and it was really picked up the flavors of that. There's certain fruits that I've tried to use that I haven't been able to pick any flavors up. Strawberry comes to mind. I haven't been able to really get anything out of strawberry. Blackberries I can get something out of, but I can't think of any other type of things. Like, there's little tricks I've learned too. If you're using vanilla beans, use a whole bean and take the pod and just take a knife and score it down the middle, open it up to let the beer get in there and get the oils out of it. I helped over in Johnson City, Mellow Mushroom does infusions all the time now. I helped them get started on that, showed them how to do it. Every once in a while I'll get a text from the guys over there, hey, we're going to infuse this. Would this work? Do you have any tips? And I'll text back, and yeah, try this, or let me know how it goes. No, I haven't done that before, I'm interested. So it's just something fun to do every once in a while, and just, makes an interesting beer a little bit more interesting.
Which nuts work best?
What's that?
Which nuts work best?
What's nuts? Nuts. I have not tried nuts. I don't know if nuts would work. Pecans? Pecan might work. I don't know. That's interesting. I think that's my next project. I'm gonna try to make some pecan, maybe like a pecan pie, and throw it in there and see what happens. Black walnut, yeah. Yeah, I'm sure you could do. But the thing is with dark malts is you're gonna get. I'm imagining you'll get a lot of astringency off of it. You could probably use like some of the midnight black wheat that Reese does. It's not very astringent. You could use debittered black malt. But if you use like your black patent, it's going to be like really astringent. I've thought of doing that before, using malts, but man, I'm like, when in doubt, use hops. I mean, that's kind of my default mode. If I want to infuse something, I'm at a loss what to do. Hop it up. I've never met a beer that didn't benefit by more hops. Of course, like I said, I'm a hop head. So any questions? There's no way I'm going to be able to talk about this in 45 minutes. So I'm sure y'all got some questions. Anybody want some more? We got some more we can pour over here. Yeah, would you like some? Yeah, go ahead. Infusions online, how to build your own, pans to do it. If nothing else, like I said, you can buy the equipment. If you got a kegerator at home, it's not that hard to get some beer line at your local homebrew shop and just hook it up. Just keep in mind, if you hook this up and put it in your fridge and forget about it, a couple days from now, it's not going to be all that great. With the cocoa nibs and the coconut, I refreshed it when I had that keg. When I first did it, I refreshed the ingredients like every other day. And by the time I was refreshing it, it wasn't carrying any of the flavors. Coconut's really good and really flavorful. Picks up right away. Doesn't need much in the way of soaking time. And yeah, so I guess if y'all have any questions or want to taste some more, we're going to bring this back over to my booth, pour it over there. And if I had other neat ingredients, I'd throw it in there. See what we can do to beer. You know, a lot of this is just trial and error. Finding out what works and what doesn't. You know, having some near misses. Trying some things that I thought wouldn't work and turned out to be awesome. So it's just a trial and error. Anybody want to try some infused beer? We've got some infused with Simcoe and Citra hops. I use shredded coconut. You can just like buy it at any grocery store in bags. I typically go, I don't know if you guys got Earth Fare around here. We got Earth Fare in Knoxville, so I get like the nice, yummy, organic shredded coconut. I tried using flake coconut. It doesn't work as well as the shredded. Shredded really lends flavors more than the flake coconut does. And now I've used, another thing that I've used is oak, like oak chips. Especially oak chips that are soaked in like a spirit. Like you could take oak chips, put them in a mason jar with some rum or some bourbon, let it sit for a week or so, drain off the bourbon, drink it, and when you wake back up, put the chips in the beer, in the infuser, and you'll pick up some of that bourbon barrel type taste to your beer. But I really don't know what else to talk about it. If, like I said, if y'all want, there's some more up here, and we're going to take this back over to my booth and hook it up and go from there. So thanks for coming in and hanging out and trying some infused beer with me.